What's up, Aventis fam? Welcome to the podcast series Aventis Knows. We are back with another season, and this season we'll be focusing on topics surrounding emotional intelligence. In this season, we want to help individuals understand the difference and importance of being an emotionally intelligent person in the workplace. You are now listening to the second episode of this podcast, Aventis Knows Season 4. This show is brought to you by Aventis Learning Group, and I'm your host, 𝗟𝗯𝗀. If you're an individual who's trying to find your way around the corporate ocean or trying to hashtag up your game with your career, this is where you should be. Today's episode is a continuation of the first episode last week on the topic on the 5 types of intelligence that you will need to learn today. As a recap from last week, we went through the concept behind human intelligence and explored each intelligent quotient in detail. We also looked at some characteristics of people with high levels of each intelligence quotient. Now, in part 2, we will be learning tips on how we can build up the respective intelligence quotient. We will also be comparing each quotient and exploring the impacts of having these quotients in the workplace. Now, let's bring back our speaker, Maxine Teo, right away to continue her sharing on the topic. Hi, Maxine. It's great to have you back on our show.
It's great to be back. Thank you for having me, 𝗟𝗯𝗀.
So we know that some of these quotients can be learned. How do we then build up or increase our IQ, EQ, SQ, AQ, and CQ levels?
Yeah, I actually run a course on it, so there's a lot of tips. But for a podcast, I'll keep it short. 1 tip per Q. Let's start with IQ, the easiest one. If you want to have like a wider knowledge, able to understand information, able to know what to say, polite at what time, read widely. It's not read a lot. Some of us read a lot of the same type. We love to read periodicals, financial magazines. You read numbers all the time, then you become like One Direction. Not the song group One Direction, but no direction. But when you read widely, that means you read fiction, you read non-fiction, you read trashy magazines, you read intelligent magazines, so wide, and that enhances your ability to understand information quickly. So for example, in a work situation, you are very good at your work, you have very good knowledge of your job role, but you read widely, you know that women generally like this. Now the trending Netflix series is Squid Game. Everybody is talking about vaccination booster shot. So you read widely. So when someone says something, I know you're referring to this, you're referring to that. So for IQ, read widely. So you watched Squid Game, right? I saw your reaction. I know. Oh no, I cannot start talking about it. I will not be able to stop after that. Okay, the second one, EQ. So EQ, as we say, emotional quotient, right? How do you improve on that? One simple tip is constantly seek to understand the point of view of others. It sounds easy, right? So for our listeners, I have a power question for you. That means each time when someone tells you something about the opinion, don't take it as it is. Always follow up with this is my favorite question. What makes you think this way? Or what makes you feel this way? For example, right, I have someone who says, I hate my job. And then everyone says, I hate my job too, right? Yeah, the boss like that. We all assume it's because of the boss. Whereas someone with high EQ will practice using this question. So in this case, Jennifer, what made you hate your job? Or what makes you hate your job? And then Jennifer will be like, you're asking me for my point of view. Yeah, I'm telling you, because this job is so boring, I want something more challenging. You know, the kind of work I do every time is so mundane, totally different from what others thought was the reason. And this person who has just been asked that question will tell others that you have very high EQ because you feel me. There's empathy. You put yourself in my shoes, or you want to put yourself in my shoes by asking me that power question. What makes you think that way, or what makes you feel this way? You like it? Practice using it today. Okay. Yay. So the third one for the SQ. So SQ is social intelligence, right? How do we become very good at knowing what to do, how to respond? And my simple tip for everyone, which is something that I do naturally, is to be very observant. When I say observant, means when things are happening around you, don't just like, oh yeah, there are people walking. Look further. Let's say you have a situation in the office. You see two people talking, right? Or two colleagues are speaking. You're like, yeah, John is talking to Jill. Yeah, they're busy. We'll talk to them later. But someone who's observant with social intelligence skills will observe when John is talking, his hands are waving in the air, and then Jill is sitting down there looking like she's going to cry. You have no idea what's going on, but you know it is not pleasant. So someone with social intelligence will look more than just two people talking. They'll pick up the body language, the expressions, and being socially intelligent, let's say after John goes off, and you will go over and ask Jill, are you all right? Obviously, Jill will say, no, I'm not. And that's where you say, I saw what John was. I saw John talking to you and it didn't seem very pleasant. Would you like to talk about it? So socially intelligent people, we do that. So practice by observing very little details around you rather than just see things in a big perspective. Right? So the next two, the final two, how about AQ? A is your, of course, we talk about adversity just now, right? Adversity quotient, your ability to take on challenges and bounce back. So my tip for everyone is do something, anything, one thing a day that makes your heart skip a beat. For example, as simple as trying out a different bus route. You always take bus 124. Today, I just went one bus, see where it brings me. Oh my God, it's so scary. And most take taxi home after that. Right? Of course, some of us will say, no time, I have no time to be late, no time. There are many things. Just try something different. It could be going for dinner. I'm always eating 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. I love 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. I will eat 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, 𝗟𝗶, all the cha-cha-cha. Maybe today, I'll try to eat fish soup. It's like boring, but just try. I never really like fish soup, but I know it's good for my health. So something that makes you slightly uncomfortable, makes your heart skip a beat, not necessarily in a good way, but sometimes a bit scared way. That helps us to slowly build up our ability to take change. And finally, for CQ, how do we improve our cultural awareness? If the pandemic is totally over now and there are no VTLs everywhere we can go, I'll say go travel to somewhere, because when you go overseas, you become culturally aware. The fact that I like to see myself, or I've been told a very high CQ, is because I'm widely traveled. For the past 15 years, I've traveled to 20 over countries, and I went there, I related to the people there. But now let's talk about what's practical in the current situation. We cannot travel, but what we can do is to start from yourself. Yes, before you want to learn about other people's culture, how well do we know about our culture? So you and I, 𝗟𝗯𝗀𝗲, we are Chinese, right? Our roots are from China. Do we even know anything about our roots? I had no idea until recent years. I didn't know. My father came from Malaysia. Then my father's father all came from Asia in China. And then when I read about it, I said, oh, I always wonder how is it that my dad can speak so many dialects. So apparently from those times, they can speak cake, they can speak Cantonese. Basically, they're very good with languages. I was like, no wonder. So when you start to study or know more about your own culture, it humbles you. It makes you realize that no one culture is more superior than the other. And it is about acceptance, it's about leveraging diversity. So once you have done that, you can definitely become more accepting of other cultures. All right, so let's do some research on our own culture today. Like my mother is half British. I have no idea about English roots. So as I was teaching this topic, I started studying my own culture. So there you go, to our listeners. One tip for every of the quotient. Hope you like it.
as IQ has been deeply ingrained in our academic assessment as well as in our like hiring and promotion systems, is it true then that IQ is like the most important quotient that helps us to succeed in life?
Not true. It'll be a big loud not true. High IQ is worthless. Nothing, zero, nada, if you have a low EQ. Let's put it this way, a genius who cannot relate well to others, you cannot even make use of your intelligence. You cannot even get people to want to listen to you. So it will all just be in your head. Yeah. So there you go. So it's not enough for you to succeed in life. At most, high IQ can just give you or help you take a step into the door, get your job. But as to how far you can go, how far you can be promoted, there are other cues that are involved as well.
Then in this case, because EQ is more important or like especially important. So like why is knowing how to manage one's emotion sometimes more important than our own intellect?
In fact, following up from the earlier question, right? We talk about is IQ the most important? It is not. And that's where we talk about EQ. Why is it managing our own emotions? So one's emotions is, I like to define it as not just your own, but also your ability to manage other people's emotions. When someone is angry, how do you calm them down? When they're feeling needy, how do you give assurance? That is also managing other people's emotions. So when you can do that and you understand yourself, why you behave the way you do, as well as put yourself in other people's shoes to relate to why they feel the way you do, that's where you can learn better and you can relate better. So IQ can get you a foot in the door, but EQ will bring you far in life.
Most of us are also like only aware of the more commonly known quotients, which are like IQ and EQ. Then in this case, are the other quotients like such as AQ, CQ, SQ really beneficial or like important to us in the long run? And like which of those should we focus more on?
I know, right? So many cues, how to really try and be very good or excel in all of them. In fact, this is a good question because there's no like one trick for everybody, one technique for everyone. Because each and every person, we are unique, right? And when we are unique, we all have different priorities based on what matters to you most. So for example, some of us may be in the multicultural workforce and I will need to improve my CQ because I cannot communicate with my colleagues from the West, or when I have India counterparts or China counterparts, apart from the knowledge, I just don't understand why they do this, why they do that. So for that situation, CQ comes up tops rather than talking about your adversity quotient. Because it's not about change, it is a fact that is ongoing. The culture of the company is as such. But if I have to give some general advice, right? Generally speaking, in today's world, at this very moment, during this current pandemic situation, the most critical quotient is your adversity quotient. Because if you do not know or do not have that skill or ability to bounce back, then forget about the rest, you'll be dead flat already, right? How do you even work on the rest? So in this case, that's where I encouraged earlier on that we try something different every day, have different ways of doing the same thing, make your heart skip a little bit, feel a little bit uneasy, because that can really help us, because at this point, we don't want to just survive. We want to thrive in difficult times.
Agree. And can you share with us some of the advantages of having these quotients in the workplace?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think a lot of these quotients, IQ we know, if you have no IQ, you won't even get the job, right? And if you have no EQ, people will just say you're low EQ, nobody wants to be your friend. So let's talk about the other Qs. Let's start with AQ that I mentioned just now, being the focus in this period of pandemic. Well, when you have the advantage of having high AQ, like what I said, is you will be able to ride with changes and adversities at the workplace. At one moment, work from home, work for office from home, culture shock, reverse culture shock. It is constant. Hybrid is the new name of the game, right? So if you do not have the ability to ride with it, that's where you will be left behind. So yes, that would be the number one I would suggest, right? That the advantages of building up your AQ is so that you can better adapt to your workplace. Another, as for CQ, the advantage of building that up, working on it, is today we are no longer in a multicultural workforce. I know in Aventis learning group, we're mostly locals, but sometimes we do have different cultures. It's not a huge thing for you. But just earlier this morning, I was delivering a program for Aventis, and there were 15 different nationalities in the same session. I know, right? I wanted to show off my 15 different languages, but that would take half an hour. They said, in Hindi. Yeah, I said, in Burmese. I will finish it in half an hour. I wasn't going to do that, but I was totally comfortable with it. And by being able to adapt to a very multicultural, multi-generational workforce, that will really help you to become an asset to a lot of organizations. And I like to think that's also one of the key reasons that Aventis will engage me again and again for many programs for very diverse clients, because some of the trainers whom I know you all work with, they prefer, the either local classes or they prefer certain, but mine is like, I'm adaptable, bring it, man, any different cultures. So there you go. If you can be very good in your CQ, you will be very versatile and you can really thrive in any work environment that your company puts you to. So that is your CQ. Finally, for SQ, which is an extension of EQ, the answer is, or the advantage is obvious, right? When you're able to interpret emotions even better, we are no longer just communicating and telling people what to do. We will be able to connect with people, get buy-in, speed up collaboration. The advantages are limitless. So that's where I really encourage you as well, starting on the workforce, very new. So build on all these Qs, and you will have a great future ahead.
Do you know of anyone, or do you have some examples of how someone excelled in their areas of work by using these quotients that we learned today?
I know, now that you said that, I'm just thinking, typically if I quote all the famous people in the world, some of us will say, yeah, there are famous people in the world, and I cannot be them. But if I don't quote famous people, our listeners will be like, who's that? Who is who is right? So I will quote some famous people so that we can have a benchmark, have an idea. So obviously the high IQ, we all say all the time, you're such an Einstein, so clever, right? Albert Einstein is like of all time, very high IQ. But if you read about his history, he has very low EQ and all that. He doesn't talk to people in a world of his own. So yeah, so we all know that. But as to how he excelled, he may not be the most popular person in life or with a gazillion number of friends, but he definitely came up with a lot of theory, a lot of inventions that have helped the world even till today. So that is by having IQ, high IQ. So we can improve our IQ, as we said earlier on, so that we can do more, help more, and impact more in life. Sounds like your tagline, to enrich, encourage, okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's for high IQ. As for high EQ, one fine example you would think of, a world famous figure would be Mother Teresa, of course. You may be very young. Have you heard of Mother Teresa?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have. Yeah, she can relate to people. She's from a rich family, yet she puts herself in the shoes of the people who are poor, who are starving. And because people feel that she truly cares, that's where they feel so blessed and being saved by her. Of course, we don't have to give up our life to go and save the world. But of course, advantages of people, if you have the qualities of like Mother Teresa at the workplace, you'll find that people will want to back you up. People will want to help you when you're in need because you have always been there for them, right? And people who are very high IQ and just rest on their laurels and tell the whole wide world and the company how good they are, when people will all be waiting for them to fall Die. We want to see you suffer. Yes, see, she failed in that project. Woohoo! People actually celebrate your failure. But if you have high EQ, people will go, oh no, let's help her. She has always been there to help us. So there's a difference there. So look for the Mother Teresa's in your office, because these are examples whom we can learn from. As for high SQ, if I think of popular figures, you may not know her, but she's American, Oprah Winfrey. Yes, have you heard of her? She has a lot of talk shows. You might have heard of Ellen DeGeneres and all that. But Ellen DeGeneres is a comedian. She's funny and all that. But Oprah Winfrey, she has made a lot of people cry on her shows, right? People who have weight problems, they relate to her. Woo! So for her, she has a very high SQ, social intelligence, because not only does she feel people, she knows what to say. At the moment she responds something, the tears come out, right? And on top of that, she will give them direction, give them advice, and then bam, their life becomes better. So where are the Oprah Winfreys in your office? Look around there as role models. I look around, you'll find someone who somehow not just knows how to feel people, but like the example I said just now, they know what to do. They know what to say at that very point of time. And from there, we can learn and improve ourselves as well. And AQ, okay, that's the adversity quotient. I was thinking of famous people. Most of them are dead, because but those who are alive, then free advertisement for them. But let's talk about someone. You and I can have this whole conversation with electricity in our house. It's all thanks to Thomas Edison as well. We have heard of a story of how he tried to invent the light bulb for failed 999 times and all that. It's like he said I didn't fail. I just had 999 ways of what not to do. Or the one for super adverse intelligence. Right. I think most of us will give up by the 10th time, or maybe the 3rd time. It took him almost 1,000 times. So I'm thinking he is a classic example of someone who can really roll with the punches. So think about then maybe Thomas Edison's in our life right now, but I think many of us can just look around us, and if we can see colleagues and friends and family members still going strong, there are definitely fun examples whom we can learn from. How is it that they can accept changes gracefully? How do they not just let failures hold them back, but turn them into learning opportunities? So there'll be many such role models around us. And finally, we have the cultural intelligence, or the CQ. Okay, I know I've been talking about world leaders and famous celebrities. May I shamelessly say the final person I can think of is me. Yeah, because as I'm sharing just now, right, some examples and how I have excelled. Well, for me, I realized that when I deconstruct what I do, how is it that I can go to countries like Dubai, Middle East, go to India, and then adapt, go to Myanmar, and everyone looked at me strangely and said that, because I have very short hair, right? And I don't look like them. They all have nice long hair. But somehow I will observe people. I'll notice they have little patches on the face, and I ask around, they say that's facial. And I know when they stare at me, it's not that they hate me, it's they are afraid of me because I don't look like them. And I will quickly pick up some phrases from even just at the airport, how do I say hello? They say, "Mingala ba." Then I remember there was this case when I arrived at Myanmar, and all the people at the airport were staring at me, taking their bags and staring at me. I looked at them and I smiled and I went, "Mingala ba." They're all done, "Mingala ba, mingala." So even came out, "Excuse me, can I take picture?" I was like, "Okay." I must be some strange mascot there. And I can do that everywhere I go. I go to India, I go to Germany on my own. And I dare to, I have the courage to. I think I am proud of myself in that sense, because I know many people will ask me, "What? You went to Mumbai on your own? What? You did this on your own?" I said, "Yeah." Because to me, I have the ability to pick up information very quickly by observing others, adapt my behaviors, and blend right in. I may not look like them, but they feel comfortable with me. So there you go. I hope that wasn't too much by saying I am a fine example. Thank you. But there you go. Those are the examples for our listeners.
Okay, so we are coming to the end of our podcast session.
Already?
So before we end our session on the 5 types of intelligence that you need to build today, could you leave us maybe a take-home message or any golden rules that you have to encourage our listeners?
Oh, now I feel like a wise old lady, okay? The take-home message. I would think I would want to share with everyone that all these 5 types of human intelligence, they are all important for us to be well and happy and successful in our own terms. But my advice to all of you is rather than try to work on all 5 of them, you feel like you need to be a perfect person by mastering all 5, that will be suicidal. So my suggestion is pick one that is most important to you at this point of your life and work on it. All right, don't try and do everything. Start with the first baby step. Work on it, excel on it before you go on to the next. And in the end, you may not be perfect in all 5, but it's okay not to be okay because it's all by the learning journey. So on that note, I'll leave you with our audience. So thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you, Maxine. Thanks for being on our podcast again. Really appreciate your sharing.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you to our listeners as well. Bye now.
Hi, Aventis fam. From this session, we now know that it's not just about intelligence that matters to succeed in life. The world has changed so dramatically in the last couple of years, and so is the way we are seeing our future. Right from the way we learn, process, and deliver, it all depends on how we can process not only our tangible qualities, but also our intangible qualities. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Aventis Knows Season 4. If you do have any questions regarding the topic on human intelligence, do drop down your questions in the comment section below or drop us a DM. We are available on channels like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Telegram, as well as Spotify. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to us for more podcast episodes, and we'll see you soon. Bye!